Hey guys! Today's video will be a little bit different because I thought that when we talk about story and story development we actually need to see each other a little bit better. If you missed the last video where I made a whole analysis of the Dragon Age The Veilguard and why it made us feel so weird and empty after we completed our first playthrough, go have a look. Among all things, I published 2 books, and my books displayed in the biggest libraries in the UK. So today we're going to talk about the story development, and the thing that really bothered me a lot is that I couldn't believe the qualification of people who created those dialogues. And what we're going to do, we are not going to criticize them only, but we will also try to fix it using the basic knowledge that we have in creative writing. So first of all, it's very important to understand if you write something, especially if you write it for people to consume, let's use a general word for that, we need to imply that there is some motivation behind an action, and it is particularly crucial for story development. Even silence speaks volumes when it comes to character arc. Today we're going to examine the episode between Harding, Lucanis, and Rook when they talked about coffee. I think everyone who played the game knows what I'm talking about.
This smells amazing. Does all coffee smell like this? Or just the stuff you make?
Coffee has a distinct aroma, if that's what you're asking.
Sorry. It was really rare where I grew up. And expensive.
Is it really a good idea having another coffee addict round here?
It's not really addictive, is it?
Tell us, Lucanis. Is it really addictive?
You know I have my reasons for drinking it. So, Harding, what do you think?
It's... delicious.
You don't have to pretend to like it.
I mean, it's good. It's nice and... warm?
Rook's right. You don't have to pretend. I won't be upset if you don't like coffee.
He really wouldn't.
I know, but... sorry. It's just this thing I do sometimes.
Acting so people will like you?
It sounds terrible when you say it like that.
Well, I hope you remembered the episode. The key issues in the dialogue are the lack of consistency in character tone, so we can see a lot of very abrupt shifts in the conversation, and moments like that feel too expository, so that they describe too much, or they forced onto readers, watchers, gamers, etc. So people who consume the story. To make it believable, we need to focus on keeping characters' reactions natural and true to their personalities, because this is another point that was very immersion breaking in The Veilguard, because many characters feel undeveloped. And to do that, we need to use subtext and humor a little bit more effectively, while the pacing can be improved by softening harsh shifts that we just heard in the tone, and by giving characters more space to respond naturally and realistically, how we do this in real life. Let's break down the dialogue and analyze the writing from a creative perspective, and I'll focus on areas where the writing could be improved in terms of character consistency, pacing, and overall impact. Let's start with the Harding response. Her line is, "It's nice and warm." This feels a little bit inconsistent with her character, especially considering her previous enthusiasm and her nature in general. So she's a scout. Scouts are very confident people, especially they are aware of all the potential dangers that can come into their lives. So yes, It is normal for her character to be unsure about some things. However, her occupation implies that she knows how to cope with this feeling of being unsure. By that age, she must have developed some kind of a coping mechanism when she controls her emotions. Her previous enthusiasm about the coffee and the abrupt shift is just simply illogical. Earlier, she expresses a genuine curiosity and excitement about the coffee, but then she almost sounds unconvinced and unsure that maybe she regrets even participating in this conversation. So if Harding is supposed to be an assertive or confident character, her hesitation doesn't align with that tone, right? So there was a change of tone. If she's supposed to be more awkward and inexperienced and expose a vulnerable moment for her, this moment could be a bit more humorous and self-aware from her perspective to show a little bit of a natural social encounter that we usually have in real life. Why do we need this reality in a conversation? Because it creates connection between a consumer and a creation, right? So in this case, it's a story and a gamer. So how we can fix it? Harding can have a little bit more of a consistent reaction when it comes to the next line. So if she's unsure about the taste, it could be a funnier moment where she tries to save her face, maybe with some self-deprecating humor or a more expressive reaction like, surprisingly good, warm, definitely. To show at the same time that she possesses both personalities, both traits in her character, when she is assertive and when she's also surprised because she didn't see that coming. Or another thing, if we add a little bit more politeness to her character, it could be, I admit I didn't expect it to be this delightful, right? Or any other adjective that shows that she doesn't really want to hurt another person. Let's have a look at Lucanus's line. So he says, coffee has a distinct aroma, if that's what you're asking. This line feels more like an informational statement and less like something a character would actually say or naturally say. While Lucanus might be the type to give a straightforward, blunt answer, there could be a more engaging way to respond without sounding too robotic. How we fix it? In order to avoid that, we need to make Lucanus sound more natural, give his response a little bit more personality. He's a coffee fan, right? So he's probably an expert. So this conversation could add depth to his character arc and to his personality as well, to show off his special interest in his blunt and confident manner, to expose that behind the thing that he's an assassin, he also has some real human traits, like he's a fan of coffee, he likes this drink, why not? Let's add a little bit mannerism to his response. He can say, well, coffee's got a distinct aroma. Couldn't miss it if you tried. It shows that he's experienced when it comes to coffee, that he observed many people and their reactions, and also he probably smelled a lot of drinks. This adds a bit of a flair while keeping it informative. For this thing, we're going to take a Rook's coffee joke. The line about Darkspawn being addicted to coffee is a funny concept in general. That's a good idea, but it could be polished and sharpened and delivered in a much better way. The dialogue overall feels like it's trying to be humorous, but the punchline is a little too abrupt and doesn't really land. At least it didn't land with me. Tell me if you had different reactions. So how can we fix it? We need to consider expanding Rook's delivery or making it a little bit more exaggerated to sell the humor. There could be many variations. For example, if we want to keep it wordy, you know how Darkspawn are always searching for something? It's not the Blight or Archdemons. It's coffee beans. For this part, we will take Harding's words again. We notice the shift in her tone. Harding goes from expressing excitement about the coffee to suddenly being embarrassed by it and by her reaction to it, and that people caught her on that reaction. So the pacing of her change in tone feels a little bit off. It's really fast, and instead of such a dramatic shift, it would be more fluid if Harding kept her positive tone and then joked about not being used to drink's taste. So how can we fix it? We need to smooth the transition so it's more gradual and less jarring. Harding could express her hesitation while maintaining a bit of her enthusiasm. For example, I didn't expect this. Maybe I'm just not used to it, but wow, I wasn't prepared for this flavor. It's still energetic, it's still a little bit quirky, right? So it's still positive, but it also shows that she's not fond of what's happening right now. Show, don't tell is one of the most important golden rules in writing, and for that we're going to take Lucanis's line. I won't be upset if you don't like coffee. This is a straightforward reassurance in case if Harding wanted to show that she doesn't really want to hurt anybody with her response, but it's a bit flat, right? So it's like straightforward telling. It might be more effective if Lucanis's attitude is shown and his delivery has mannerism, or he would answer showing or imagining some kind of situation connected to coffee, rather than we directly let him state what he wants. How we fix it? Instead of telling, we need to let Lucanis show his openness through the body language or his tone. For example, you don't have to pretend. Really, I have seen people turn down a cup before. It shows that he's not against her reaction, whatever the reaction will be. Or another option to create depth for his character in this case, we can show that he cares for Harding, but thinks that he's stronger than her, and it would create a very interesting dynamic between two characters. He can say, hey, no pressure, some people can't handle the kick. And it shows him as a bit of a more cold-hearted and blunt person, but at the same time, he's still interested to invite Harding into his world, into the world of coffee. Realism in dialogues is extremely important because it creates the connection between the story and a reader, or gamer in this case. It is relatable. We need to make dialogues relatable so that we could be a part of a conversation and not just some excluded observer who just push buttons, right? We will take Harding's line again as an example. In the end, she says, I know, but sorry, it's just the thing I do sometimes. This line feels a little too out of place after all the humor and banter they had. It feels like Harding might be trying to explain herself too much, because we obviously understood the situation, what happened before. But we have already read her body language, right? And we know her reaction that she doesn't feel comfortable. So all these things were redundant. And this is a very bad thing in writing, if you have something that repeats itself or explains itself again over and over again. This line reads a little bit awkwardly, and we are going to fix it. Instead of over-explaining, we will let Harding acknowledge briefly, in a very briefly manner, what happened, and let her move on in a more casual or humorous way. For example, I know, it's a habit, don't mind me. This will show that she has a tendency to people-pleasing and will open her character arc a little bit more without actually forcing a reader or a gamer to feel sorry for her, right? So she doesn't, she's not fishing for compliments, or she's not fishing for your reaction to calm her down because of the trauma that she has. Or another thing, if we want to add a little bit of humor into her story. Sorry, it's just the way I was raised. Just call it the pretend to like what's in front of you reflex. So it could be like that, depending on what trait we want to put into our character. The response could be the same, but the tone must be different. Subtext is a cool thing. It is the implied or unspoken meaning or truth behind the characters' words or actions in a story. Why do we need it? It's basically like reading between the lines or understand the unsaid truth. So we need it for mental connection with our characters. This is basically the thing that makes us like characters with whom we play the game and interact in the game. So there is a lot of potential for subtext here. For example, Rook's teasing could carry more weight because it referenced something personal about characters, like their habits, love for coffee, or indulgence might have effect in their life, so we don't know. It could be anything, but it must be connected to their personalities that we can just read because of the environment or because of their body language or because of their reaction, which would make the jokes feel more organic because we know something about them, and it would also create a less simple banter because we like complex writing. Complex writing is good. So how can we fix it? We could add a little bit depth to Rook's lines. For example, you sure you want to invite another addict into this camp? We're going to run out of coffee in a week. And then, I don't know, let's imagine a line where Lucanis says that he doesn't mind visiting Treviso Market every week. So it could create like an extra branch in this conversation, but we will not do this now. So it could be this, or a little bit more humorous in order to support companions' relationships and dynamics. For example, I mean, it's harmless unless you are in a mood to fight over a lost cup. Then we're going to have a problem. So here we're referencing to the potential reality where both Lucanis and Harding are coffee addicts, and it creates a problem. So what line works better? If I'm being honest, the idea of the dialogue is great. The delivery is not. It needs to be rewritten from scratch, honestly, in my opinion, but I don't know. We can literally take all the previous lines and recreate this scene with the ones that we just made, where Lucanis tries to find a friend in Harding by introducing his special interest. It will create the spirit of companionship and natural social interaction that has motivation behind his act. So he wants to make a friend. We're writing it so that he kind of invites her into his world. Beautiful, beautiful interaction. This smells amazing. Is all coffee like this, or just yours? Well, coffee's got a distinct aroma. Couldn't miss it if you tried. Sorry, it was rare where I grew up. Expensive. Seducing Harding to become your fellow coffee addict. You object? I mean, it's harmless unless you're in the mood to fight over the lost cup. Then we're going to have a problem. It's not that addictive, is it? You know how Darkspawn are always searching for something? It's not the blight or archdemons, it's coffee beans. That's not true. Rook's joking. Now, what do you think? It's surprisingly good. Warm? Definitely. You don't have to pretend. Really. I've seen people turn down a cup before. Sorry, it's the way I was raised. Just call it the pretend to like what's in front of you reflex. Wow, I wasn't prepared for this flavor. Something like this, but this episode creates a bond between them. Let's try to fix it with minor corrections and keep the original author with us. It seemed to me that Harding and her people-pleasing disorder was the reason for this banter. So here we want to create vulnerability and trauma to spice the character arc. So let's go back and focus on character development, shall we? This smells amazing. Is all coffee like this or just yours? Coffee has a distinct aroma. Yes, it's not just mine. Sorry, it was rare where I grew up. Expensive. Better hope you don't get hooked. We don't need another coffee addict. It's not that addictive, is it? Ever wonder what Darkspawn are always searching for? Coffee. That's not true. After everything that happened to us, I wouldn't be so sure. Now, what do you think? It's... No pressure. Some people can't handle the kick. Yeah, you don't have to pretend. Well, I'm not pretending. Okay, maybe a little. It's just a habit. Don't mind me. Do you see how different a scene can look depending on the motivation behind the character, even though the idea of a scene remains untouched? Bonding, trauma. These are two different situations. When you write something, you must understand what exactly you want to show to people. To make this dialogue lighter and more natural, we needed to implement 4 improvement techniques. Stronger character voices, and Lucanus is now not only a straightforward, blunt, grounded assassin, but also humorous. Rook is playful and a bit mocking, I must say, and Harding is sincere but still self-conscious of her flaws. When we focus on humor, the Darkspawn joke is brief and plays off Harding's confusion. Also, we improved pacing, so the dialogue is streamlined with the coffee tasting moments serving as the comedic climax while the characters have personalities. They don't shapeshift in a matter of minutes from one set of traits into another. When this happens without a reason or without like a special preparation, it can tell us only one thing, that the character is mentally unstable and not healthy. And the last thing is natural interaction. So basically we recreated the exchange that feels more organic, more natural, that we can meet in the real life, and it focuses on companionship while allowing for subtle humor and acceptance. Acceptance is important when it comes to characters' dynamic. Of course, it is social interaction, it is human relationships, and it always comes with various traits from various people that come together and feel safe. I wish the writers had used the knowledge and given us a believable story instead of a dry therapy book, but it is what it is. If you watched my review, you know that good writing is essential to enjoy a game when it comes to my taste. Unfortunately, The Veilguard didn't deliver, and this video explained the mistakes that were made. If you couldn't explain it to yourself why The Veilguard didn't work out for you, I hope this video shed some light, and that's it for today. Subscribe for more analytical content because I will analyze more games, and there are a lot of interesting RPG titles that are going to come out in a couple of months, like next year, practically in 2025. And for now, have fun, play video games, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!